Yo. 7:10. Time to get into that Cannadelic podcast. Tuesday morning. I know, what's special about Tuesday? Not much. Get some tacos, how about that? That's right. Cannadelic podcast. We talk about the latest cannabis and psychedelic news, information, opinions, all sorts of things. Sometimes it gets political. It's impossible not to get political when we're talking about changing laws. But you know how it is. Try and keep it real, too. Guess what? We're talking about how not to legalize marijuana today. We're always talking about how to legalize it. How are we going to legalize it? Today, how not to legalize it. And we're looking at you, California. I know what you're thinking. California has like the best cannabis, right? Humboldt, OG, right? Ocean grown. Got some of the best dispensaries, got the Emerald Triangle. But none of that stuff is because of the way they legalize cannabis in California. Now, that's not to say that they're not trying to do the right thing. But the way that things went down in California, as far as legalizing recreational cannabis, after 20 years of a very, very loosely regulated medical marijuana program, this has a lot of lessons to teach us. And as we are all moving closer to legalization nationally in all these different states, everybody's trying to figure out what's the best way to do this. What's the best way so that businesses prosper, that people have opportunity, that people have access to cannabis? What's the best way? So California took their stab at it. They wanted to make equity in licensing, so they have about 3,000 different licenses. Well, it's more like 20 something. But they have different licenses there that you can own in combination or not in combination with each other. Well, you can own license A and B, but you can't own license A and C. You can own license B and C. So it's very, very tightly regulated when it comes to licenses. But also the taxes are enormously high. And they give municipalities the option to opt out of having dispensaries in their area. So there's a couple of things here. The high taxes and the banning of dispensaries in different areas of California have created an interesting climate. And what does that climate look like? So legal cannabis in California is 40% more expensive than unregulated, unlicensed cannabis. Now, remember, in California, they've been growing cannabis for a very long time. And some of the stuff that you're, getting is some of the best in the world, even if it's not regulated. So California state and local marijuana taxes and fees total 40 to 45% compared to 20% and local rates in neighboring Oregon. 25% in Nevada, 30% in Colorado. So people are paying 40 to 45% in taxes in California. So higher prices for government-sanctioned marijuana also combined with so-called cannabis deserts. And cannabis deserts in months of California are, and other states as well, are where conservative and more rural counties have restricted or banned cannabis sales at all. So if you can imagine here in Florida, there are some municipalities, some places where there are no dispensaries, and you have to go to the next town over to go and get your cannabis products. This has caused a lot of problems for a lot of medical patients in the state of Florida. Fortunately, our rural areas, our cannabis deserts, are pretty small in Florida. I would say that the cannabis desert that I've seen is that corridor that goes across the state, like right in the middle, Route 60. There's a couple of other routes that go across by Lake Okeechobee. Very, very, very little as in the way of dispensaries. And then up in the Panhandle, there needs to be a little bit more over there. But you can see how you can create these deserts. Now in California, there's a much bigger state, a lot more areas, a lot more cities, and you can be really far from a legal cannabis dispensary, but not very far from your trusty plug. The Reason Foundation, one of these organizations that's kind of libertarian leaning that I've followed for a very long time, did kind of an audit of what goes on in California. And they said that 80% of California's local jurisdictions ban or restrict legal marijuana sales and growing. 80%. 80%. That means only 20% of California, geographically, has access to recreational legal marijuana. That's pretty mind-blowing now. There are parts of the states where you do not have legal marijuana for retail for more than 100 miles. Imagine having to drive 100 miles to get something, a legal product, a product that's legal in your state. In Oregon, they have one legal cannabis retailer for every 6,145 residents, right? So one dispensary for every 6,000 residents. In California, it's one legal dispensary for every 30,000 residents. One dispensary for 30,000 residents. You can't tell me that that's going to be able to meet the demand for cannabis in California. So all of that combined, there's a lot of, it creates a situation where people are going to push for lower prices and greater access. And if that's going to mean breaking the law and getting unregulated cannabis, because again, this isn't going to jail for cannabis now. This is, you don't have legal cannabis. It's decriminalized. Maybe if they really, really, really want to go after you, they can try and figure out that you bought something illegally and give you a ticket for maybe $100. And that would take a lot more than $100 worth of work on the police force's part to give you that ticket. But as far as producing cannabis and growing cannabis, this opens the market wide open for the clandestine or legacy growers in Northern California, Southern Oregon, that have been growing for decades. This actually creates a good climate for these illegal operations, because they can undercut pricing and they don't have to meet a lot of the stringent regulations when it comes to providing cannabis for the retail market. And they're not restricted by where they can go. They can sell to people anywhere in the state of California because they're under the radar, right? So there's, thousands of unlicensed and illegal grows all across the state of California. A lot of that stuff makes its way here to Florida and across the state everywhere. So one of the things that you can learn, that I think we've tried to learn from that, is let's not allow these municipalities to make these things, to be able to make these decisions. It makes no sense why a municipality can't ban a CVS or a Walgreens. Why should they be able to ban a dispensary? But then again, municipalities come together and vote not to allow a Walmart to open up in their town. So towns can be fairly picky about these things. But when it comes to access to cannabis and you're trying to create a full-on legal, above the board market, you can't have one city next to another city that does, one that allows it and one that doesn't. You're obviously going to get, the city that doesn't allow it is going to have a whole bunch of people moving over, giving money to the other city, and then just coming back like they're going to get it anyway. So Oklahoma, they really, took the approach of, this is a state law and you can't opt out of it. and we're seeing what goes on over there. They've got some of the more lenient laws. Not that they don't have their problems with diversion because the laws are so lenient, but I think it's a step forward, right? So there's all, when you have 80% of the state. Now, this could happen in the country. I want you to understand this is something that can happen in the country. States can start banning marijuana. I don't see it as, well, states can do it, so can municipalities. Federal law says it's okay, state law says it's okay, and then your town says it's not okay. We still have dry towns in this country. We still have dry counties. What that means is there's no alcohol sales. You're not allowed to have alcohol in certain counties in the United States, and there's lots of them. It's not like it was unbeknownst to me for a very long time because I come from New York City, but there are places where you can't buy. Well, here, how about in Florida? In some places, you can't buy alcohol on Sunday before noon. And I've been at a restaurant for brunch trying to order a mimosa at 11, and they're like, no, you got to wait an hour. Okay. So we have to figure out some way to make sure that there aren't these deserts, and we have to figure out some way to mitigate these taxes. One of the things that people try and pass these laws with is, hey, if we legalize cannabis, we're going to get all that tax revenue. We're going to rebuild our schools and rebuild our roads. And why that's all well and good, we have to be, cognizant of the fact that you can overtax and you can push people to the black market. I didn't realize people made moonshine in the South still, but they do. I've seen people, like everyone from a guest at a hotel trying to sell me some moonshine to, up in Pennsylvania, they sell moonshine at the festival, the cannabis festival over there. Could you imagine if alcohol taxes were so high that it cost you $50, $60 for a bottle of alcohol? There would be a huge moonshine market. So we have to do something about making sure that we don't overtax this. And if you look at some of the regulations that they've put in things like the MORE Act, it calls for a ramp up to 25%, nationwide tax on cannabis. That's not to say that states and counties and towns are all going to put their taxes on it as well. One of the answers is you drive the cost of production down, so that everybody's getting their piece, and it levels out the market of the prices. But then you see, states like Washington, that, while they have their own problems, the cost for cannabis is very low, and the taxes are not astronomical, but they are helping the community. So we have to look to these different states, not only to see how we can legalize cannabis, but we really need to look at what mistakes have happened. And it's difficult when you're fighting an uphill battle against everything from reefer madness to big corporate money, and everybody wants something different. It's really hard to look objectively at the other states and see, well, what are they doing right? What are they doing wrong? But I think it's important, and we need to be aware of that, so that when people in the legislature, people that are pushing for these reforms, people that are pushing petitions, we're able to understand those, and we're able to call out and say, hey, you're not really addressing the tax issue. You're not addressing the municipality issue, right? You're not addressing this. This stuff needs to be addressed, and we need to be able to call those things out and make sure that we we understand this, because when you want something really bad, like marijuana legalization, it's very easy to just say, yeah, we want, everything. Whoever's for it, we're for it too. Where we're getting to a point where there's a lot of, picking of winners, I like to call it. Everybody knows it's going to be legal, and now it's just who's going to get rich off of it. And there's a lot of politics involved in that, and we need to make sure that we're on top of it. The people need to make sure that we're on top of it. We don't just let politicians run around and pass the laws that they want, that they don't understand, do not understand. They tried to ban marijuana flower and edibles in the state of Florida, and usher in concentrates and vape pens because they didn't understand the market. They tried to kill the market. Instead, they introduced 90% THC products to a population that had no idea they existed. They don't understand. And it's our job to make them understand. So that's my 2 cents on how not to legalize cannabis. Hope you guys are having a good good Tuesday. James Thompson is pointing out that in 2014, Obama signed laws that allowed marijuana on Indian reservations and federal land. Yes, but there are laws on those reservations as well. So just because the government says you can grow this on your reservation, well, you have a whole tribal community that still has to decide, do we want to do this? I have a feeling in New York they're doing that, but there are some tribes that are like, no, we're not doing that. And people within those tribes have to get those laws passed within their community. So that's an interesting point. Also, as Obama also put into place the Cole memo, which said that the DEA would not spend any money prosecuting marijuana crimes, but then it was quasi-repealed. First of all, it's a memo. You can't repeal a memo because it doesn't do anything except suggest that you should do something. They sent another memo in the Trump administration that said, no, you can't do that. They kind of nullified the Cole memo, but it was just another memo. It's a tricky situation, and hopefully we can see our way through it and avoid most of the corruption. Anyway, that's all for today. Cannadelic podcast. Thanks for joining me. Hope you like my sweatshirt. I got married in this sweatshirt. If you can see me on the YouTube, if you're just listening, go onto the YouTube and check it out. I just put the Cannadelic podcast up on the Cannadelic.Miami website, www.cannadelic.miami. I have to say the www because people don't understand Cannadelic.Miami. They're like, what? .com? So no, it's just .Miami. And you can go over there and you can check it out. We also have our speaker lineup. Most of the speaker lineup put up there. It's at Cannadelic EDU, Cannadelic Miami, EDU at FIU, July 9th and 10th. 9th and 10th, that's Saturday and Sunday. And it's going to be a blast. We are super, super excited about it. And some of the speakers that we got coming in, you're not going to want to miss it. And that's about it. Hope you guys have a wonderful, wonderful day. And I will see you all mañana.